Hello everyone, welcome back to Simbright Fashion Academy channel. I'm so glad you are here with me once again. Today is going to be the making of this beautiful blouse you are seeing on the screen. Okay, so on the screen there you can see the blouse has one-sided princess dart if you look very well. Okay, so I'm making this video because one of my subscribers requested I should make the video for her, so I'm making it so every one of us can learn from it. For those who have been with Simbright Fashion Academy, I want to use this opportunity to say thank you very much for your subscriptions, and if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this each week. Like, share this video, drop your comments on the comment section and your suggestions as well. So to begin this video right away, you can see I have a plain paper here in front of me, a plain pattern paper, and this pattern paper you are seeing right here, the first thing I'm going to do to it is to place it on fold. I'm placing this on fold because the neckline I have in there is not the same. Okay, in other words, you can say is not symmetrical, is asymmetric. Okay, so you can see one side of it has a princess dart and the other side of it has a shoulder dart connected to the shoulder directly. All right, so now that I've folded my paper, the next thing I want to do right now is to start marking out my necessary lines. Okay, so right on the table right here, you can see I already have my basic lines. I believe you know how these basic lines came about. If you have been following this channel, you will know how we got to this. But if this is your first time, I'll be dropping the link of the basic bodies on the description box below so that you'll be able to know how we got this. But I'll just give a little explanation to it. Okay, you see the first line I have here is the shoulder line, and this second line we call it the chest line. This is the bust point, this is under bust point, and this is my front length or my waist. Okay, my front length or my waist. I believe you understand what I just did here. So what does that mean? It means the shoulder, from the measurement you took from your shoulder to your bust point, that is your nipple point, and under the bust where your bra stops, and your true waist. Okay, that is your waist level. So right now, to get my chest line, if you notice I didn't talk about the chest line because this chest line is calculated with your bust. You'll be using the measurement of your bust circumference, taking your tape around your bust area, divide it by 6, whatever thing you get, you add 1.5 to it. That is how I got this line from this point to this point. You can see the line. This is the shoulder drop. I dropped my shoulder by 1 inch, and you can see the neckline, the natural neckline of 3 inches, which works for almost everybody. But if you're a plus size, use your bust point, your bust circumference, divide by 12. Whatever figure you have, that is what you impute here. If you're a very extra large person, you put it here and put it here. Your bust circumference divide by 12. Whatever the result is, you put it here and put it here. Assuming my bust circumference is 36, for example, 36 divided by 12, I have 3 inches. So if I put 3 here, I'll put 3 here. That will be my natural neckline for the front. So I'm not bringing it down because I don't want to use my natural neckline, but I'm using the 3 inches because that is the first thing you are supposed to do. So I believe you understand what I did here. So the next thing I want to do is to place my bust span. My bust span is the measurement from one nipple to the other. I'm going to divide it by 2. This is remember my paper is on fold. So I have this folded part as my front, my center front. So from the center front, I divided my bust span into 2. and you can see I've already shared the points along the whole line. So I'm going to just quickly rule a line to connect all of them all the way to the, it's supposed to stop at the bust point, but there's no problem about that. So next thing you are going to do is to divide your shoulder seam. That is the next step. Whatever thing you have here, I have 4.5. I'll divide it by 2. That is 2.25. And at this 2.25, I'm going to place my tape and connect directly to the bust points. I'm connecting to the bust point. Please take notes, okay? So this line is not supposed to be there. This is not, I'm not supposed to rule up to this point. So this is what I expect you to have at this point. So the next thing we want to do right now, we want to start contouring the under bust and the upper bust line. But if you look at that picture very well, we need to take the level at which the neckline will start, okay, before we start contouring, because we need the neckline position to have our contour. So before we move into contouring the bust line, the under bust, the upper bust, the next thing we want to do is to take the neckline. So I'm taking the neckline from the shoulder for this outfit. I'm taking from my shoulder. I want to be working with 6.5 inches. Okay, you can as well make yours 7, okay, or maybe 7.5, but I want to work with 6.5 inches for this. Okay, so this 6.5 inches I have in here, I'll quickly take my neckline, okay, using my rule, my curve rule. I'll just use the little curvy part of it and I'll allow it to meet up with this straight line from the shoulder. Then because I'm contouring, I'll just bring it a little out to enable my contour line. So the next thing I'm going to do after doing this is the contouring of my under bust. So coming over to the under bust, I'll be making use of 0.5 on this part. Then on the waistline, I'm making use of 0.5. Then I'll be drawing a straight line on that point. Then I'm using 2 inches to contour my line. So I've put in 0.5 here, and I'll be putting 1.5 on this part. Can you see? So I will come down here and I'll put 1 inch as well. So in other words, here I have 1.5 to contour, and here I have 1 inch to contour, and on this side I have 0.5. So the whole that intake I have here is 1.5 and 2 inches for the under bust line. Then from my bust point I'll come down by 1 inch, and from the bust point I'll come up by 1 inch. Then on this line, which is my neckline, I'm going to contour 0.5. I'm contouring with 0.5, 0.5. This sorry, 0.75. That is 3/4. I beg your pardon, 3/4. Okay. Then I'll also come over this way, 3/4. That is 0.75. My contour line here is 0.75. So at this point of 0.75, I'll be placing my pattern master this way, and I'm connecting it to the 1 inch I have here. This is 1 inch I have up, 1 inch I have down. I'll contour, I'll place the straight part of this ruler this way to contour my line. Can you see that? Then I'll flip it this other way to also contour the line. I'm done with the upper bust contouring right now. So the next thing I want to do is to come over to the under bust, and I'll be keeping my rule this way, my pattern master this way to contour. Okay, so make sure you get it perfectly. You can see how I placed it. Okay, then I contour, then I flip this way as well on the same part, and I'll contour my line. Then coming over to this point, to the waistline, I'll just connect my line. So this is what you're expected to have. So I'll just shade it a little, because we are not going to make use of it at all. So this part we are going to cut it off. Can you see the part we are cutting off? And we are going to also cut off this part as well. All right. So the next thing we want to do, now that we've gotten this, that is on one part, I want to impute my bust circumferences divided by 4. So my bust circumference divided by 4, I have it as 10 inches. You can see I already have my mark before I connected my neckline, okay, and my armhole line. So I want to say something about this armhole line. You see, I got my armhole line using my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5, and I have the result is 8 inches in here. So I divided this 8 inches into 2 and found the midpoint. I came in by 3/4 of an inch, connected with my straight rule to the 3/4 of an inch. Then using my curve rule, I connected to the chest line. So please, when connecting, don't go connecting to keep it this way so as to touch your bust circumference divided by 4. Please don't do that. Just keep it, let it touch the chest line. That is the most important. It has to touch anywhere on the chest line and on the midpoint. That is the little thing I want to let you know in here. So you can see my bust circumference, I've imputed it, and my under bust circumference, I have it as 35 divided by 4 is 8.75. Then I'm adding the 2 inches, I'm replacing the 2 inches that in here. I have my point here. Then coming over to the waist, 36 divided by 4, I have 9 inches. Then I have 1.5 that intake, I'll replace it here. This is the point. So right now on this part, you can see I'm losing 0.75, 0.75 that on my bodies, that is 1.5. I'll quickly come over to my chest line calculation and add it up immediately. So that is what I did there. So at that point, I'm going to connect all the way to the waistline, passing through the under bust line. You can see. So that is what I expect you to have at this point. So remember, this is the neckline is not equal. Like you can see, what I did there is just the shoulder. I tightened my bust at the upper line here on the shoulder line. So I'm going to open up this paper right away. I'm opening up this paper right away. So because it's the other part has a princess dart. So I'll first of all extend my lines. So on this left hand side of my front bodies, you can see I'm using a black marker, and you can see the black line dividing the center front. So we are going to do a different thing altogether on this part, because we have a princess dart, armhole dart on this part. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to take my bust span, distance of nipple to nipple, and I'll make the mark to rule a straight line. Okay, so I'll be stopping my line on the bust point. That is the first thing I will do. Then secondly, I'm going to divide my shoulder seam line. I'm going to divide my shoulder seam line by 2 and find the midpoint. That is the midpoint. I'll connect the midpoint all the way to the bust point. So right now, I'm going to take the measurement of this armhole princess dart. I'm taking the measurement of my armhole to see what I have up to the point of my bust circumference. So I have 10 inches in here. So I'll be taking the midpoint of 10 inches, which is 5. This is my 5 inches. But after dividing it, I always like coming down by 1 inch to have a beautiful princess that is not hanging. Okay, so you can see what I did. Let me take it again. From the shoulder, I took the armhole. I believe you are seeing what I'm doing. From the shoulder, I took my armhole circumference to the point of my bust circumference. This is my bust circumference divided by 4. Okay, so I took my bust circumference divided by 4, and I have 10 inches. This is my 10 inches mark. So this my armhole line is getting up to the 10 inches mark. So I'm taking the measurement from the shoulder to this 10 inches mark. So I'm taking it again on that line. You can see how I took it, and I have 10.5. Okay, just a little before 10.5. So a little before 10.5, if you divide it by 2, I'm dividing it by 2, and I have 5.25 in here. So what I said is, I like coming down from after dividing by 2, I'll come down by 1 inch. You can see my 1 inch, so that I won't have a princess that is hanging. So having done that, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect my princess dart. I'm connecting my princess dart right now, but then I'm going to come out from this point a little by 0.25. So I'll be making a mark of 1/4 of an inch. You can see how I did that. So I'll be placing my curve rule. Remember, I'm working on this line. After I got the midpoint, I came down by 1 inch. Okay, so I'll be connecting this line, this point, and this 0.25 using my curve ruler. That is for my princess dart. So I'll keep pushing to make sure I have a beautiful princess dart in here. Okay, so you can see how I'm adjusting it. That's very good. That's exactly what I wanted. So I'll be ruling my line, okay, to the armhole line. But I'm going to make a little extension. Let me use a broken line to make that little extension of 1.5. Why am I making this extension of 1.5 inches? Because when joining this part of your princess and the princess, you notice that this part, because of this curve, when you are joining it on your fabric, you start having a shortage eating into your bodies. But with this 1.5 you have, that is very perfect. When you are joining it, you see it return back to where it should be when you cut your fabric. And if you have a little excess, you can also cut it off. It's better you cut it off than you have a shortage in there. So I'll be taking my measurement on that extra line that I made coming out of the armhole line. That is 1.5. I'm taking the measurement to see if it's correct. That is perfect. So on this point, I'm going to position my pattern master in a slanting. Please make sure you slant it. Don't keep it in this way, okay? It's going to give you troubles when joining it on fabric. So slant it, but make sure you connect this point to this point, okay? But in a slanted form. Okay, so I have created my new line right now for my princess dart. So after doing this, the next thing I want to do is to come over to the underbust to contour. I'm going to contour exactly the same way I did here. On my center front, I'll be taking 0.5, and on this part, I'll be taking 1.5. And down here, I'll take 0.5 on the center front side, and here I'll take 1 inch. So I'll simply connect it with a straight ruler right now. Then coming over to the bust point, I'll also come down by 1 inch on the bust point. Okay, then I'll be keeping my rule the same way I did on that other side to connect these points. You can see what I have there. I'll flip it this way to also connect this point. You can see that, okay? All right, so on this part, we'll be blending. This is supposed to touch in here, okay? It's supposed to touch this line. So I'm going to reconstruct this to touch this line, okay? You might, okay, since it didn't go in there, it needs to touch this line. So I'll be raising this line, this 0.5 I came out, okay? Because this, if it's at 0.5, it's supposed to touch the line. Okay, I didn't see that it did not touch the line. So you can just connect it here, it's still okay. All right, so let's continue. All right, so now you can see what we have in here for our princess dart. So if I have to blend this line in here, you can see what I have at the end of the day for my princess dart. Okay, so I will now connect this line. I'm going to use my straight line, okay, to connect it completely. So you can see this princess that's running from the armhole all the way to this point in here. Okay, so please take this correction. Okay, all right, so I'm going to shade this part right away. I'm going to shade it because I don't need it. We are going to cut it off all at once. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to take the circumferences divided by 4. So on this part, I'll do the same thing I did on this part to connect my. All right, so at this point you can see we have the asymmetric bodies, the neckline, because they are not equal. We have one of these princess that and one running to the shoulder. So I want to, you can also see I have closed up my circumferences. You can see I've closed up my bust circumference divided by 4, waist divide, under bust divided by 4, and I replaced my dart intakes and connected my line. So I want to work on this part of these bodies right now. You remember when we connected this line, the waistline to the chest line, we replaced this 1.5, that's 0.5 plus 0, we replaced by 1.5. But this time I want to make a little correction to that, okay, because we are taking a bust divided by 4 on the chest line. We are taking it on the chest line. So bust divided by 4, I have 10 inches. This is my 10 inches mark. So the line we are supposed to replace is that line. You can see if I take the measurement of this line, is about a little above 1/4 of an inch. So from this point I'm going to replace that point, okay, of a little above 1/4 of an inch. Please take that correction. Okay, so I'll be reconnecting my line back. I'm using my black marker to do that correction. Okay, I believe you saw what I just did. I corrected the mistake in there. Okay, so we are no longer going to make use of this line when cutting off. So what we replace is this dart we are going to cut off along this body, because once it is cut off right now, we'll be shorting above 0.25. So that is what we are supposed to add. Just as once we cut off all this, we will be shorting 2 inches. Okay, we replace and replace. So that's how we replace on this line as well. So coming over to the replacement of this, I'm going to replace this dart right away. The 0.5, you know, I contoured with 0.5 inch and 0.5. Altogether I have 1.5. So right now I'm going to extend my shoulder line. Okay, but before I extend my shoulder line to replace this dart at the shoulder line, I'll be showing you why I'm replacing at the shoulder line. Okay, it depends on where your line is running. Okay, so right now I'm going to pretend closing it, because at the end of the day, after cutting on our fabric, this line will definitely meet this line. So you can see I'm closing it up right now. So as you see me closing up this line right now, can you see the shoulder is moving together with the line? Can you see? You can see. Okay, I've pretended as if I want to close up this line, which I've done right now. So my shoulder immediately moved. So remember, when I open it up, let me take what I have in there. Now you can see I'm done connecting this line. That's my points all together. Okay, all right, and I've replaced the 0.25 down here. Okay, I made the necessary correction. Okay, so now it's time for us to impute our bust dart. Remember, we've not imputed our bust dart. So from the bust point, I'm going to take my bust dart. I'm taking the bust dart because I have my front length longer by 2 inches. Okay, so the normal way we close our bust dart, I'll quickly take my bust dart the way we do it back to the bust point, bring it out a little by 0.75 or 3/4 back to the chest line, and I'll connect. Okay, So I'll also shade it out because we are going to close it up right away. Okay, so I'll also go over this other side to close up my bust dart. I'm also going to do the same thing I just did. From the bust point, 2 inches, come down and connect to the bust point, then share it again. If I share it 1 inch, I'll connect back, come out a little bit by 0.75. Okay, then I'll connect back to my chest line and back to my bodice. Okay, so I'll also cut off this point. So at this point, this is what we have. At this point, this is what I expect you to have right now. Okay, that is what I expect you to have. So right now I want to close up my bust dart immediately, and to close up the bust dart you have to cut out the waist dart. So before doing any other thing on this pattern, that's what I'm going to do. So you know the normal way we cut out, we close up. Okay, so I'll keep cutting this line to the bust point. Please don't cut it out. Okay, so I'll cut. All right, then I'm discarding this because I don't need it. So that will enable me to close my bust dart. So I'll cut off from this point right now. Okay, so I'm taking away this. So this is what we have right now. Let me cut at this point as well. Okay, so I'll just cut out. All right, so now I'm going to close up this part, okay, because I want to work on this armhole. So you are going to see what we are going to do on that armhole. So but I need to close up my bust dart first. So once I close up my bust dart right now, I'll now replace my 0.75. That is 1.2. Okay, so I've closed up my bust dart. You can see that. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to close up the upper bust on this right hand side. So to close up the upper bust, I'll be taking this line to meet up with this line. So you can see as I'm closing it, is also moving with the shoulder. Can you see? My shoulder is moving. So let us see how many inches it moved. First of all, I'm going to take the measurement of my shoulder seam line. I'm taking the measurement of my shoulder seam line from this point to the natural neckline, and I have 4.5 inches. So now we have 1.5 here. Definitely is going to short by 1.5 because of the dart. So let me pretend closing up my dart, maybe sewing up my dart. I'm pretending I've sewed my dart. So let me see what it took away from my shoulder, because you can see it's moving with the shoulder as we are closing it up. So this is what I have. So at this point, this is my new shoulder line from here to here. So you can see the shortage. I have 3 inches. Can you see? So if you take away 3 inches, which I have here, from 4.5, you can see I have my 1.5 back, which is 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1.5. So this dart now, I'm going to replace it back to this point. So let me quickly add up my adhesive, because I need to close this dart right away before we continue this tutorial. So I'm closing it up right now because we don't need the dart. So this is what I'll be having at the end of the day. Okay, so this is what I have at the end of the day. So the measurements for the shoulder seam line right here is 3 inches. So I'm going to replace my 1.5 with the dart took away. Okay, so before I do that, I need to, okay, let me just take it here, then I can cross my line. Okay, so I'm replacing from this point. I'm just adding 1.5. This is my 1.5 line. So I'll be placing my tape on that, my rule on that 1.5 line, connecting back to the shoulder line to create my new seam line. I believe you understand that. So the next thing I'm going to do is to connect from this point back to my chest line to create my new replacement of my armhole. So you can see how I'm connecting it right now. Okay, this is how I place my ruler to connect. You can see the ruler connection. So can you see my new created armhole right now because of the shortage I have because of the dart in here. Okay, so coming over to this part, I'm also going to cut off. I'm going to cut off because I need to close my bust dart right away. So I'll just simply cut this off. Then and close up my bust dart. Okay. So I'll be closing up this bust dart right away. But before I do that, I need to cut to the bust point. Make sure you cut to the bust point to enable you close it up appropriately. You can see what I have right here. Okay, so now it's time to cut off the princess dart. Remember, there's no seam allowance added to this pattern at all. Okay, so I'll be cutting my princess dart through this line. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and cut the princess dart parts. Okay, but before I cut off this princess dart completely, please, I want to draw the neckline. This is very important. You remember that at the neckline there, from this tip of the shoulder, on the picture, I'm coming in by 1 inch. Okay, because it's a little canoe neck. I'm coming in by 1 inch, and I'm making a mark because that looks a little like a canoe neckline. So I'm going to place my rule on this point, and I'll blend it up with the already existing neckline. You can see this is the neckline for the other side, so I'm blending it up. Can you see? So right here I have my neckline for the right hand side. Now coming over to this side, the neckline, I'll be coming in from my shoulder. I'm coming in by 2.25. In fact, at this point I have this folding. Okay, that is where I'm going to create my neckline for this part. Okay, so I'll take it back to where we have the meeting of the dart. Okay, where our upper back bust when closed met. Okay, so that's how the neckline is going to look like. All right, so now we are done with our neckline right now. So I want to cut off the princess dart right here. Okay, so let me now cut completely. You can see I have my princess dart on one part. Then I'm going to cut through my armhole line, through my shoulder seam line. Then when I get to this 1 inch I came in with, I'm going to cut off my neckline. Okay, you can see. So I'm cutting off my neckline from this point, and I'll take it down to this point. So can you see what I have in here right now? Looking so beautiful. So that is what you see on that picture. Okay, so on this part I'm going to cut off through this part also because we are going to join it back. Okay, so I just take the line, let me cut through. So I'm cutting through this line, can you see, to separate the two. Okay, so you just cut it carefully. Can you see that? Okay, all right, so you can blend up a little bit to avoid sharp points. Can you see how I just blended to avoid the sharp point there? Okay, so this is exactly what you have in there. Can you see that? So when after adding your seam allowance, then you are going to join them this way. Can you see? So you are going to seam, adding your seam allowance, you are going to seam this to this, which is the shoulder princess dart, and coming over to this, after marking your center, marking your bust points, you are going to connect this way. All right, so this is what we have for this picture you are seeing on the screen. So for the back of these bodies, you also follow the same process. It's just a very simple thing. You draft your back, your basic back, the way you want, and on the other side of it, that should be, I did this on the, okay, this is the right side as is facing you, and this is the left side. So you are going to switch it for the back. Okay, that is, the back will be having the back part, the left hand side will now have this, that is the 1 inch, while this other part has this.